puts things in perspective in a country like ours. We need Njirus of this world because he doesn't mess around. He calls it like he sees it, without fear or favor. And with 11 days, Jalas, and 11 nights to go before
too much ushenzi left and right.
Yes.
Too much ushenzi, lakini kuna watu wengine pia ni wangwana.
Correct.
We cannot go and say kila mtu amekuwa mshenzi. There are people who uko nje have demonstrated some very good ungwana and they come out really strong in just saying. I would easily say what Raila Molodinga said the last part of his during the debate. Hii ni mchezo, kuna mshindi na mshindwa. He actually went ahead and congratulated Jubilee for putting up a very brave fight on this.
Spirited fight.
It's a very spirited fight.
Right.
And said that whoever wins, asikubali kushindwa, sio mshindani. Huo ni ungwana.
Huo ni ungwana.
Yes.
Then there are politicians out there who are also preaching peace and integration everywhere. We cannot go away without telling them to keep it up and just to push the ungwana part of it.
Right.
Na kuna washenzi wengi huko wenye lazima tugeuze mita, tusukume mita,
wananunua pombe, wananunua bangi, wanaambia vijana vuta.
Kwanza vijana. Sasa ile unapewa pombe na bangi ulewe ama unafurahia kupewa t-shirt. Unajua Juliani kwa wimbo yake anasema hiyo t-shirt ulipewa ilikuwa ni investment yake ya 5 years.
5 years, yes.
So think, ingiza ungwana kidogo kwa kichwa yako
ndio,
kabla hujaanza kukunywa ile pombe uende kuanza kutukanana anything. Vile mimi na Jeff usema hapa, kama unajua Njiru anasimama na Njiru haupendi Njiru, aja kwambia ukuje kwa rally. Unajua kaa nyumbani, siku Jeff anakuja mtu wako basi nenda umsikie. Lakini kama utaamua kwenda kusikiza Njiru, nenda huko na utulie kabisa,
na utulie na amani,
na amani. Enda umalize usikize Njiru, rudi nyumbani. Unanipata? Huyu mwanasiasa ambaye labda unapigania uko hapo unapiga kifua yake, sahihi kwake nyumbani ako na omelette na jema hapo
na bacon,
na kuna bacon na kwa hata na njugu ya kupakwa kwa mkati. wewe kwako hata rufu ya uji hakuna. Kisha atakuja na chopa yake,
hata menda inakufa
kabisa. Menda yenyewe inataka kuama kwako. Menda sinasema hapa kimeuma.
Panya tayari amefunga safari.
Last week panya walitoka, waliondoa kwako wakienda.
Na wewe unaenda kurusha mawe.
Na slippers yako, hata ile slippers umevaa imekatika
na ni blue na red. Unajua, so kitu ya kwanza ni kufanya ni huyo politician atakuja na chopa kwako. Unajua, wewe uone chopa upige nduru vile mheshimiwa wako na vumbi na atakuachia vumbi hapo yote. Kama yule wa wapi yule mwenye anawamwagia pesa ndio awatoroke.
Ushenzi kabisa. Na helicopter nyinyi mnaacha huko mkipigana. Na ni
250 mumepigana, mumelimana. Put that man to accountability. Umuulize saa zile umetumwagia 50. Okay, 50 ndio hii tumechukua. Okay, what more do you have for us?
What are you going to do?
What are you going to do for us?
The word is grow up, mature. Once you mature, you are okay. And by the way, I have never bought this line that Kenyans are poor. That's why they ask for t-shirts. You know, my late father used to say that a poor person is a person whose spirit has been impoverished. In fact, ukisikiliza watu ambao wametengeneza pesa mara mingi, tuseme Njega Karume ama tuseme hata ujamaa wa Microsoft, let me tell you, they didn't start from a perspective of carrying money bags, but they had a spirit in them that was headed in a certain direction, and they sweated it out until they got to where they got to. So hii kitu ya kusema we ni maskini, you are condemning yourself. You know, we are told what we profess with the tongue is what you'll also possess. So when you say I'm a poor man, mimi maskini, mimi nasemanga wewe maskini peke yako. Mimi si maskini. Hata sasa ile sina pesa kwa mfuko si maskini. Kwa sababu my heart is full of an understanding and an appreciation of what it means to be human. That is what we need to do. So that hao vijana wanakimbilia t-shirts, wanakimbilia 50 shillings na hata wazee. Ni ushenzi. Nina mama mmoja najua, rafiki yangu. Ana ushenzi ndani mwake. Aliniambia uchaguzi ile ya sijui 2002 alinunua friji Uchaguzi ingine ilikuja alinunua microwave. Sasa anataka kununua cooker. And you know how she does that? She does that by literally stealing money from the politicians. Anasema mimi nina kikundi ya watu, wacha niende niwapelekee pesa. Na mimi ndio chairman wa hiyo kikundi. So akipatia 100,000 anakata na nunua kuka. Sasa huyo ni mshenzi kamili na ni mwizi. Lakini hajioni mwizi, anajiona yeye ni mwerevu. She looks at herself as a person who basically is in a space of cleverness, of innovation, of creativity. These are the people who are destroying this country.
Absolutely.
These are the people who are destroying this country.
And the other thing, Ken, we look at this country, people say we don't appreciate our country enough.
That's the point.
As Kenyans, we don't appreciate. And the other day, you mentioned this man, Jack Ma.
Yeah, Jack Ma.
The richest man in Asia decides to make Kenya his first stop. On his African tour. He could have skipped us, gone to several in South Africa, like everyone talks about.
He himself knows and understands
that Kenya
is a place to be.
The last 20
alone
with 38 billionaires.
Let me tell you, my friends, what Kenya is what I'm seeing here. The people in this room, drop them anywhere. Drop you, drop her. In the States, Pennsylvania.
Yes.
And you're taken to a studio, my friend, you'll kick. And people will listen. Meaning we have a critical number of people who are we are elevated in what I'm calling that consciousness. And that's the spirit that makes Kenya. So that when you drive into this country, you drive into Nairobi, I'm sure many people wonder, is this an African country?
Right.
I'm told when Modi came from India,
Modi, yes.
Just what we consider and cleanliness, because by the way I think Nairobi is dirty.
Yes.
But on the average, there's something you look around and you see, Allah, there's some order here. And it's starting, something is starting to lift. So that there is so much going for us, but we don't understand.
No.
Every time I travel and come back home, I feel uku. There's nowhere like this place.
Absolutely.
And that is what we need to understand. Let us even appreciate even our leaders. For instance, and that is not to say that we may not have problems, with him, whether you're voting for him or not voting for him. But, I met some Zimbabweans down in South Africa, in Zimbabwe, and they were telling me, if you guys don't want Uhuru, give him to us.
They said that?
Yes.
Zimbabweans.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I think there was a study that said, he was being voted as one of the best, if not the best African leader.
Yes.
Because of what we are seeing rising. But in many ways, I do accept that as Kenyans, by the way, I think our standards are the reason why we push our leaders is because we want better.
Yeah.
For instance, Nairobi, most people shower with buckets. Yeah.
There's no water.
There's no water. Your water it comes twice or 3 times a day. In fact, when if you're moving house or you're buying a house, the first thing you ask is there water?
Is there water?
I mean,
you switch on the tap. You're testing it.
Yes.
To see if water comes through.
Water comes through. And my friend, we are talking about engineering feats in quotes that move oil from from Mombasa to Eldoret. Pipeline.
That pipeline.
Why can't we pipe water from Lake Victoria to wherever we want to? I mean, if you think about California, I'm told they have ducts that people can walk through all the way to Alaska. Water comes through to California, and you find a desert, with green grass and nicely ordered trees and everything. Yeah. There's never a water shortage.
And we were told there's an aqueduct in Turkana that can last 70 years.
Huge.
You know where the oil is?
Yes. There's water.
There's water right there that could last 70 years.
There's a whole sea. But until the Muzungu decides to bring it up, we are talking nonsense, fighting nonsense. And let me tell you something, and this is what disturbs me. If you take today the manifesto of ODM, take the manifesto of Jubilee, there are very few differences, which means the differences are not ideological. No. It's a tribal thing. Nyinyi mmekula mara 5, sisi hatujakula. That's the underlying thing, and that's what we call now the polarity. So there is a lot of work to be done. But having said that, by the way, I'm a very optimistic man, and I love this country. And whether we like it or not, they are always growing pangs. Yeah, when a teenager is moving from teenage to adulthood, my friend, ile maneno inafanyika hapa ni mingi sana. Hormones.
Yes. Are raging.
Hormones. Jalas, you remember when you were young? Hormones.
You want to be everywhere.
You want to be everywhere.
Yes.
I think that's where this country is. And we must tame them.
Right.
and direct them in a way that will place this country as the beacon of light across Africa.
Yeah.
I mean, people look at us. Things are basically working. They may not be what they should be, but somehow we are moving towards that. And the call for me, for every citizen, is to ask themselves, am I being my best? Even before you take that politician to account, what are you doing? For instance, this whole question of free this, free that, free this, the world does not work like that, by the way. You have to work for something. You guys, what time do you come here in the morning?
We wake up at 4 a.m.
Like him.
We're here at 5.
Yeah.
Like he slept at
1.
1
yeah.
after JKL.
Yeah. 1
o'clock.
4. There's another character na kanyanga blanketi mpaka sasa.
Amelala tu.
Na nikuzaa tu. Anazaa. And then he goes to a political rally and says, I want free education. I want free health. I want nonsense. Utter rubbish.
Haki yetu.
Shenzi. Every person in this country must pull their weight.
Yes.
Kama unataka kuweka ng'ombe, weka mpaka tunakuita ile industry ya Botswana. So that your meat is going down to New Zealand. Not walking around with your cows everywhere. And when they're about to die, you demand the government must buy them.
Yeah. But where's my grass?
Where's my grass? And after the government buys them, after now, the drought, you then demand the government must restock them so that you may walk around with them. That's total nonsense. Utter rubbish. You look at, for instance, to say Lake Victoria. Potentially, by the way, in terms of exporting fish, amazing. But we've not realized the potential. So for me, let us turn within. Let us understand that every one of us are sentient beings. There is nobody who is better than the other. Even if you're a millionaire up there and someone down here is struggling, it is okay. Tomorrow he can be a millionaire. But depending on how he or she thinks, what he or she believes, how he or she stands in the scheme of things, in this ambit we call being a human being. So that for me, we are fundamentally different. We are not animals. We are human beings. And once you become a human being, and many of us become human beings, then a culture is built where we start talking now about progress. So that's the point. That's the point.
Ken, you and I are in our 50s, and we've seen this country go through what it has gone through the last half century.
Yes.
The Jalases of this world are the future.
Yeah.
These guys are 75% of this country's population.
Yes.
Can they channel their energies the way you're talking about in the right direction?
Oh, yes. And by the way, if you think about the 60s, how old were the leaders who led Kenya?
Very young, they were 20s.
They were 20s. Yeah. Tomboy at 26 was chairing the Pan-African Congress and organizing the trade union in this country. Yeah. What are we doing at 26? We are claiming you're waiting, unaomba serikali. If you think about Bill Gates, when did he start doing his stuff? 20s. By 17, by the way, he was already engineering what he was engineering, software engineering.
Steve Jobs.
So that, and in fact, I keep on saying by 33, Jesus had finished his work here on earth. He had done what he needed to do to lay the foundation for Christianity. And today, there are billions of people who are Christians. So to the youth of this country, I say, we are all seeds of greatness. I think the idea is to put a finger on that purpose. But coming even to this generation of the 50s, Jeff, I think before we exit, we must give it the kick of Cape Kimboi. The 100 meters where Cape Kimboi now, I still see him that last corner where he takes the last two steeplechase hurdles. And he starts heading for the finish. And he's telling Kenyans, tufanye nini? Twende. Now, you and I must head like Cape Kimboi. And we must be telling Kina Jalas, twende. So that when we win like Cape Kimboi, tomorrow there's a Jalas who comes and wins. And for me, I keep on saying that steeplechase illustration is a fantastic illustration of what a nation is. But I always emphasize that for Cape Kimboi to do what he does, and indeed for Kenyans, those Kenyans to do what they do, my friend, they take their work very seriously.
Yeah.
They train very seriously. They watch what they eat, because if you eat kishenzi, you cannot run. Tumbo itapiga huku na huku, it will slow you down.
Kabisa hapo kwa tumbo
umekula kiugali na matumbo
kuweka mala ndani.
Ukivuta bangi sana, sasa ile unaenda kushinda, itakwambia pinduka. Rudi nyuma. Na utaanza kurudi nyuma.
Yes.
So by the way, they put in a lot of hard work.
It's discipline.
It is discipline. And if you look at nations that have prospered, look at the way the Japanese work. Look at the Germans. You know, we love, German engineering, Mercedes and BMW. My friend, those guys are meticulous. Every piece that is put together in that BMW, meticulous. We cannot continue operating on the level of monkey see, monkey do. So that ukiangalia hizi nguo zote tumevaa, hii suti yangu ni ya
Hugo Boss.
Hugo Boss.
Yes.
Hugo Boss kitu gani? Hata kuvaa
Kang'ethe wa kang'ethe.
na nikienda Tokyo nikute suti ya kang'ethe wa kang'ethe.
And people are fighting over it.
And by the way, let me tell you guys something. There is no other game in town but commerce, business. A civilization is, the robustness or the ability of a civilization to hold its own is determined by their level and by their quality of their productivity. All right? Yes. So that we have companies out there that are larger than these 30 million Kenyans. Why? Because these guys understand the game. We don't understand the game. We think the game is about consuming. Yeah. So what I would like the Jalases now, in that generation, and even our generation to do, is to start creating companies. I keep saying we need 100 Safaricoms in this country. But because of small thinking, the politicians think Safaricom is too big. In fact, they keep on saying, break it up.
Break it up.
Break it up.
Yeah. And pesos making too much. Yeah.
Safaricom is the petty cash account of many companies like Amazon. Petty cash. Ile wanasema nataka majani chai toa hapa. It's a petty cash account. Yeah. And that is a fact. So how do we expand ourselves? How do we get kang'ethe wa kang'ethe out there? Sometimes I look at over the years, I look at the type of ambassadors that we put in place. Unachukua mtu sijui kutoka tuseme maendeleo ya wanawake. Unamfanya ambassador sijui wapi.
Washington.
Na hajui. Doesn't understand what commerce is. Doesn't understand what clueless. So that all we are doing is making political appointments. Yeah. As opposed to making appointments where when I take Jalas to Saudi Arabia, I'm telling Jalas, if you don't bring us 100 billion in terms of investments,
you're coming home.
Yeah, you're coming home.
Or you're going to Djibouti.
Now we will be talking. Lakini when we wait like young birds with beaks like this, ati tuletee pesa. Nonsense. Utter nonsense. I think we need to reverse. Even these conversations we've been having, I do like devolution, but I think devolution should have even gone deeper down. I still think we really don't have devolution. What we did was move the executive from up here to a small executive down here who's become a god, who's even become a thief.
Yes.
We've lost so much money and we can't even account for it. Billions. I'm told some of the governors have even houses in Australia. They channel their money through their kids.
In 4 years.
In 4 years.
That's why everybody wants to be governor.
Yes.
Ni kukula tu.
It is not about kukula. It's about producing. In fact, we need to have an indices of productivity, so that we be knowing which governor is most productive and which one is not. And let nobody cheat you at Kwetu in the desert. California is a desert.
Yes. So is Utah. So is Nevada.
So is Israel. Wana develop mpaka drip irrigation. Wanasema kwa sababu hatuna maji, this drop will be dropping on this plant here straight. Sio mambo ya kunyunyiza maji kishenzi.
Sprinkler.
Yeah. Hakuna maji. In fact, there was once I drove with an Israeli friend of mine called Adi from Mombasa to Nairobi. He was looking at this land and saying, God, I wish this land was in
Israel.
And as we look at it and say semi-arid, tunaomba serikali. Hiyo ndio ushenzi tunapaswa tumalize.
Wow. Ken, I could talk to you all day, all night, but I want you to leave us on a positive note. Yeah. 11 days, 11 nights to go. And I'm going to play Daima Kenya for you and us and all our listeners as we go.
Can I tell you the story of that Daima Kenya?
Go on.
Before the 2012-2013 election, we were sitting in Amboseli, Kenya Daima, and we were wondering what song can we use to drive this country. And we were thinking, let's call this musician, let's call this musician. Yeah. And then I remember saying, but guys, there were songs that were so simple and they had a rhythm, and during the Moi era.
Yes.
And Polycarp Igade says, by the way, I have that CD in my car. by coincidence.
Right.
So he brings the CD.
Yes.
And the songs are played, and the first song that is played is that Mkenya Daima thing.
Wow.
And everybody just said, this is the song.
That's it.
And then Patrick Obath plays the guitar. After dinner, he played that tune.
Come on.
And we said, that is it. And we looked for Muganga, who was, the guy who had done the song, and he agreed to do it for free. And so we got musicians that ajua kali walikuwa ndani. If you look at the video, you'll see them, and they remixed it, and it came out the way it came out.
Wow.
What was so funny was a few months later we had a peace meeting na serikali, government politicians in Mombasa, and Kibaki was there. Let me tell you, when we played that song, because what happened was we brought in the Kenya Ports choir, KPA choir, and Muganga, had worked on them.
Yes.
When that song was played, even Kibaki sang it. I remember the late Ngumo was sitting in front of me, cracking a joke and saying, "Sasa tuimbe Tawala Kenya." That is the story of the song.
Wow.
And what I found interesting is it resonated even with young kids. And so to Muganga, I say, that is magical. And this is the type of magic I'm saying every one of us has. And if we do it to that level, we'll be okay.
We need a magic moment.
Play the song.
We need a magic moment.
We need a magic moment.
Oh.
It's the Hot Breakfast with Jeff and Jalango.